If last week was a recipe for disaster with Adelaide being a great scoring team and your guys defensive wise, is this week a recipe for a very much a potential win, given Carlton haven't won since the last time you played? You're at home, it's a day game, dry deck. Is it set up for your third win of the year?
Yes. Press her over. No, you're right. The numbers would tell you that offensively we're a little bit better than them, and defensively they're better than us. So we're going to have to get that part of our game up and going, and hopefully our dry conditions and a fast tech will help that. So that's the plan.
The fact that they struggle to score as well, does that change anything with what how you guys set up?
No, well, obviously every team is a little bit different in what they have. I'm sure they're trying to. I bet you they're not sitting around all week saying let's not score. But at times it's about personnel you've got and within the plan you're trying to deliver. So yeah. Hopefully, we've tasted success a couple of weeks ago. We've had a couple of bad games since. They've been a bit of a drought, so that they'll use this as their chance as well. So I think both teams go in knowing that both a good win and a good loss is a good chance. But being it's our home deck, and we think we're a real good shot for it, Michael.
What gives you confidence after the past 2 weeks? Because they've obviously, been terrible.
Well, probably the last 2 weeks we've played teams that have gone for the jugular, I think, and our boys have not handled that at all. Like, we started games well, we always have. We're actually a pretty good starting team, but whenever that time comes, it all gets a bit too hard. We've fallen away, and then that's the reality of it. We have to grow out of that as a footy club and a playing group and a coaching group, that we've got to be harder to play against for longer, and that's really all this game's about with your maturity and your growth.
Steph coming back to us a massive boost,
yep.
Isn't it?
It does, yeah. Steph coming back's good. It helps our ruck stocks and helps Archie out a bit.
This week more about pride than anything else here at home. We've only got 2 home games left, and
it's right. We want to. We've got 2 more games at home. We want to win both the games. For our fans, really, we've got to give them something to cheer about this year. It's important that they go away seeing some results. That they can say these boys are having a crack. That's the most important thing. And I think, the word pride, what does that mean? It just means that, the man in the stands wants to see the guys have a dip for a longer period of time. That's really it. So that's what this week's about.
So there's a feeling in the group that they want to turn that around for the last couple of weeks and really finish off the year well?
Yeah, we do. We want to finish off the year well. We've got to take something out of any season you play, and we were having to do it last year. We won the last game of the year, but we just want to finish off a bit stronger. Obviously a lot of things haven't gone our way this year as a group, but it's important we do.
How have the boys responded at training this week? Because no doubt they would have been pretty disappointed in the Crows game.
Yeah, they've always trained hard. We've gone through a similar cycle through losses this year, where Monday's the day of depression, where everyone's not happy, and by Tuesday onwards you build the group back up. That's been a common cycle throughout the year. And this week was no different. So they trained really well, trained with a lot of spirit, and they really enjoy each other's company, our boys, and they're a really tight group. Just have to make sure those weekend results are a little bit more consistent. We're a bit harder on each other on those times.
You said after last week's game, and we knew where you were coming from with your comments about half the players probably not quite being up to the level. Why is this week going to be any different then?
Yeah, I was probably a silly thing to say, really, as far as not being up to the level. You get players here because you think they can play league football. It was probably the amount in one team is probably at once is, you want to expose players, with some really good support around them. You don't want too many in the one team where they lack that support and that leadership next to them, and we probably have that. We don't have enough leaders per young players out there, and that balance. So that's probably more what the comments meant. It's definitely not a slide on our playing group or that they can't play. It's just, you'd just love a system where they can just come in nicely, and Schache doesn't have to hold down a key forward spot for a whole season, and there's things like that. So that's what you'd prefer, but that will come over time.
Is he getting tired? I mean, rested again. Leppitsch, is he almost cooked for the year?
Yeah, he won't play again this year, Schache. He's done enough. He's put a lot of weight and load through him this year, and it's a bit unfair. The youngest player in the competition. At one point, I think he was top 10 in loads in the competition before we rested him last time. So that's a fair weight for a first-year key to handle. So we've asked a lot of our group this year, particularly our younger brigade, and I know the results haven't been great, but it's funny they've had to endure more than most, and the results not come. So it's a double whammy. You're not getting the physical rewards, and you're not getting the emotional ones. So it's we thought as a club it's the right move with him.
And how have you rated his first year? If he won't play again, how would you mark his first year?
I think very good. You know, he's been terrific this year for the group. He's given our supporters some hope. He and Hippie as well. I think Hippie's had the advantage of sort of only coming in midway through the year. He still has a bit more energy in his legs. And we've got Michael Close, who's finally got his body back to condition that we can finish the year off with as well. So we think we've got not only guys to replace him short term, but we've got some really good long term stocks in our key, and it's exciting for the club.
Justin, there's been so much made about your job at the end of this year and things like that. Are you still enjoying being a head coach?
Yeah, I love it. I love being a coach. I love what drives me is our young boys and helping them improve and their families and making them feel a part of our footy club and taking them along the journey. It's to build something great, you have to go through the bad times. I know it. I've lived it, but no one wants to go really poorly like it has this year, and I didn't want that either. But I don't think it changes the long-term perspective of where we're going as a footy club. But what drives me, as I said, is just coming to work. Love working with my boys. I've only got 3 daughters, so I feel like I've got 47 sons, and work with them and get the results they want and finally fill the Gabba one day with some players of quality, which are hard to get. We're doing that. We're making the sacrifices for the long term as a club, and the rewards will come. I know. Just have to. It's the worst thing in sport, what is being patient, but it tests the coach's patience. Don't worry. I've got a smile on my face, but internally at times I wanted to go quicker too. But we all just have to wait for the growth of this team.
Do you worry about the repercussions of another heavy loss?
No, not really. No, I don't worry about the repercussions of a loss because it's not about me. It's about the club and it's about the playing group. So I knew from the get-go this job in the short term wasn't going to really affect or help my win-loss ratio if that was a coach is driven by. So that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help the footy club. So.
There's a lot of talk about the quality of players on your list, high draft picks and lack of or whatever. Will you chase a priority pick? Is that?
From my understanding, there's been initial talks, but there's been nothing formal from the club. It's been mooted. I know the AFL looking to change the potential draft system over time and how to help clubs that not just this year for us. I mean, you can always have knee-jerk reactions, but there's always going to be a club in this position where we're at. And unfortunately, there's always going to be some that are flying at the top and some that are flying near the bottom. We're in a ranking system, so that's just the way it works. So I know they're looking at that. So that'll help the club, no doubt. Their talent is actually better than it was 3 years ago. People wouldn't know that, but when you look at behind the scenes, the actual quality and of our group, as far as in the industry, is probably 50% better than it was 3 years ago. They're just young. They're just young, and they're not quite ready to be at their best at the stage consistently yet.
Do you think you'd get one? There seems to be a bit of debate around the priority pick, whether you would or not. You'd think at the moment if you wouldn't get one.
The club needs. I would have liked one last year because when you've got a young team and you know that you need more young talent, you'd like them quicker. So it's as quick as you go as how much young talent you get. So, but you got to feed the whole competition, not just the Brisbane Lions. So I understand too. We have to do our bit and help ourselves out. So look, that will be what will be. I can only control from my bit down. The rest is sort of from Swanee and Lee and those guys to talk to the AFL. But obviously, it'd be helpful. Yeah.
Justin, plenty talk about the playing list and the recruitment processes at the club and things like that. The word emergency has been thrown around a little bit. Is it sort of heading towards that?
Emergency? What do you mean?
It's a bit of an emergency. We need help with recruitment and getting these top line players.
No, not at all. No, our recruiting's been solid. Actually, you see, we've used 40 players this year. Our young players come in and they show a bit. Everyone we've brought in have gone, geez, you've got some good signs. Even guys like Ruben William and Matty Hamilman, and these guys have come off rookie lists, pick 100. All the guys we've brought in have shown signs. We've just had to use a lot of them all at once. So the actual growth of the talent on the list is pretty good. We'll have a time this year it's going to be difficult to make lots of changes because we've got lots of kids. That might sound strange to people, but I was going through years where I could tell you who the 6 listings were in January. This year it's almost impossible to do. So that's always a sign of where your list stability is at, and it's actually pretty good. I know that the on-field, don't let you fool yourself that the on-field relates to the actual list management off the field. That's building to a different time frame than the immediate.
In the off-season, do you guys need to go after more experience for your back line, just like a Michael Hurley type or something like that?
Good question. Because we're so young there, and an experienced defence, tend to stop the leakiness, and we give away the most amount of free kicks for goals. We're a bit often make some schoolboy errors down there, and that's not a slight on our boys. It's just the age they're at, and it does help to have experienced backline. I know St Kilda got a young group, but they've got an experienced backline, so it really helps the rest of their team perform, and you can see that on the weekend that their immediate results are a bit better because of that. So, but that's just been the path our club's at. When you lose some experience in your defence the last few years, you become younger there, and that's what you keep playing. You keep encouraging them and putting them out there. But yeah, they need some assistance, so it's definitely an area we'll be looking at.